Hi, I'm Sherry Damaris, and welcome to Macro Magic. Today I have with me Ute Arnold, who's a body psychotherapist and author of Stuck is Not a Place. So Ute I've known for many, many years as being this fabulous artist as well as a body worker. And she's on her way to France to start an eco village. Welcome, Ute.
Hello.
We're so glad we caught you in the United States before you move. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you started your book, which I've had for years? It's a beautiful book on art and body therapy.
Yes. Well, body psychotherapy is really a combination of body, mind, emotions, spirit, creativity, and nature. And I added nature. By now it's probably obvious to everyone that we need to take better care of our nature. And that also means the nature of our body, because we're not separate from the nature around us. So nature around us gives us all kinds of ways in to experience what it means to be paying very close attention to how our bodies function, how our body maps are organized. So when I talk about body, mind, emotions, we know now that these components are not separate, but they're a holistic experience in the life of being a human. Mm-hmm. So the book started to occur after many years of writing and teaching and definitely educating myself in these fields. Studying with pioneers in the field of body psychotherapy, and all of us being alarmed by the specific techniques that were being used instead of healing. The issues were about fixing your body, and so it's not about fixing. It's not about being stuck. I hear a lot of people telling me, I feel stuck, can you help me? And I have to explain and tell them that stuck is not a place. We are experiencing a lot of emotional upheaval or physical illness in our life that help us, or they make us feel stuck. But actually they are coming to us as an opportunity to have a closer look at what the body-mind-emotion connection is all about. So when you go way back to your early childhood experiences, all you had was your sensory intelligence. You were able to sense the world around you, but you didn't have your intellectual capacity yet to figure out what mom just said to me wasn't good for me. I want to have my own voice. Except at the time when you were 2 years old, we call that the terrible twos. And it's also connected to the second chakra, which means relationships. And our ability to find a way to create a healthy ego response. Meaning, the ego often gets a bad rap because we're always saying the ego is at fault. And what I've realized over the years, that the ego is really the wounded self, the early self who didn't have an opinion, wasn't allowed to have an opinion, so therefore could not develop healthy boundaries and the ability to say yes or no when it fit their own self-growth process. So we learned then to adopt and adapt to life and adopt other people's opinion. So even well-meaning people around us who said, do it this way, do it my way, it's a much better way. It sort of aborted our own ways to be creatively responsive to life around us and try to figure out what made sense. So the sensory intelligence was given up, and instead what was fostered and supported was the intellectual. So figuring it out, how does it work? Intelligence. So recently I listened to Eckhart Tolle, who probably most of your audience knows, a wonderful teacher. And somebody asked him, Eckhart, what would you love to have most in your life if you could choose? And he said, I would choose to let go of my mind, or rather of my thinking.
Yeah, I
And
think that's so
the interviewer said, is that all?
Yeah, I think that's so true. Like even with cooking, we say, how does the food feel? It sort of gives you a better parameter than what you think you should eat, or how does your body feel, in terms of food choices. So I think you're spot on in terms of looking more at the feelings and the sensory experience. And, we're all stuck in our head too much and trying to control things.
Yeah, you mentioned the word control, and of course, it helps us to feel safe. So when I'm working with somebody, I can't take away their imagined control over life. I have to help them to see that there are other options and other intuitive possibilities that have been safely buried in the body-mind connection. So it's not that they're gone. It's just we have to find a healthy and what is the word? A healthy way to find our way in to much deeper knowledge, a much deeper wisdom. And that wisdom is often deeply buried in the cellular memory. But the good news is it's not gone. We can access it. And so many people have started, many people now have started the yoga community, which is a wonderful way to access things. I've studied the Alexander technique, which is more about how to work with the intelligence of space and how to learn to play with gravity rather than to collapse under it. I find a different way of my nervous system teaching my vertebrae that there are energy cushions between them. And therefore the muscular activities around the spine don't have to grip, but rather support this up and then at the same time down. So we are really like a lightning rod between earth and the heavens. And then of course there is width and depth. So we are moving through a field of intelligence that we're not really aware of. And in fact, I just heard a very exciting news that there's somebody in Africa who has created a battery that perpetuates its ability to work on the intelligence of space.
Wow.
Yes. And so modern physics is catching up with psychology and spirituality. And so it's becoming a beautiful cosmic soup in which we are learning to swim.
So when
as we know from our political agendas right now, there's a lot of swimming that's going to need to happen.
Yes. So when you do your body therapy work, your body psychotherapy work, what does that entail?
Okay, so if I'm working directly with a person, that means there's a certain quality of touch that's based on the Alexander technique that I just talked about, the expansiveness. So if I have my hands under your shoulder, let's say, and my hands talk about my ability to be in the round, let's say, in playing with gravity so we don't feel stuck. So if I give that information, my hands then are of course connected to my whole self. So that information gets channeled into the body of the person that's lying on the table, because I'm not disconnected from my hand. So my ability to talk directly through my hands on a psychophysical level is heightened and becomes aware. And then I might use Gestalt therapy, which is a dialoguing technique that creates people very quickly through words to the issues that may be the underlying reasons of there is dis-ease or disease even. And so I might say, if your shoulder had a voice, what might it say? And the shoulder might say, get away from me. And then I have to be making sure that they don't think about my touch as an interfering touch. But because it's offered on such a wider holistic level, there is no agenda in the touch. I don't need to heal them. I don't need to fix them. I'm just offering a presence. And that presence goes deeply and quickly and magically into this early memory that things are okay and I have the power to get through this. And so then I might say, how old are you right now? And often what comes up is the age 4. Interesting. If you relate that to the chakra systems, that's also the heart chakra. So that just occurred to me. I never thought about this. So the heart is closely connected to our wisdom self, obviously. So they're speaking from the intuition and the wisdom of the heart, 4 years old. And then I would say, who would you like to talk to? And they might talk to somebody who interfered with their process of living. There might have been a traumatic event. I deal a lot with people who have some sort of abuse history, whether it's sexual or touch or emotional, any kind of abuse history. And so in that moment, they feel safe enough to look at this perpetrator or whoever it was that interfered with their space in their time of development, and they'll be able to dialogue with them. But at 4 years old, they're too young. And because they're at that moment deeply regressed, we have to bring in an ally. And an ally is anybody they feel is strong enough to oppose this interferer, this person that created this moment. It doesn't have to be traumatic. It could be anything where you feel you didn't have your own voice. I have a friend who loved to do art, and when she was in kindergarten, the teacher says, oh God, what are you doing there? This is all crap, you know? And so all of her life, she never thought that she was creative, which happens to many of us, unfortunately. So in that moment, we'll bring in, like somebody, in my book I explained, somebody had been abused by his father every day, and he totally lost the memory of it, but it came up in that session. And I said, who would you like to have an ally? And he said, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This was a number of years ago. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, beat this person that traumatized my client at such a young age over and over again. And he beat the hell out of him. And that helped to empower himself, because that was just happening up here. It wasn't happening in my room where I was working with him, right? But the ability that somebody would be there to stand up for him was very important. And I think that's going on planetary-wise at the same time, where so much of the politics is going into this power over rather than power with rather than power over. So we need to feel that somebody's fighting for us so that we can think we have power over. But it's not that what we're looking for. We're looking for community, relationships, getting along with each other, supporting each other. I mean, we are now in a world stage where we have to do this. Otherwise, we destroy ourselves and the planet along with it. We all know that. It's just it's going to take a while to feel safe with each other again, and to feel connection is needed, and to feel that safety comes by helping each other, bartering with each other, not making money as such an issue, but a money as a relationship, as a compassionate political vehicle, rather than power over who's got more, you know, and then envying this, and if I only had all this. And it's not, it doesn't depend on money.
We're going to break for a commercial, but we want to come back. I want to hear more about the body wisdom. I think that's such a powerful tool that you use in your practice. We're going to talk more about your new projects and more about your book.
Okay.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed within their lifetime. RVN TV is asking for your support for breast cancer survivors and those currently battling the disease. You can do this by wearing pink ribbons or clothing throughout the month of October. Early detection and treatment is crucial, and we at RVN TV encourage all women to consider undergoing breast clinical exams and mammograms. The fight against breast cancer needs your support. The 2020 election is right around the corner. RVN TV encourages you to register and vote. To get information about how to register and the different methods to vote this election season, visit vote.gov. Every vote counts, so don't delay.
Hi, I'm Sherry Damaris. Welcome back to Macro Magic. We're having a great discussion with Ute Arnold, who's a body psychotherapist and a book author. And we're talking about body wisdom and how that she can actually read or support the wisdom of the body and bring it back to balance. Now, we have some photos of your work we like to share with the audience. One is your working room with all the beautiful artwork on the walls, green floor, the mat. Want to tell us a little bit about, is this the house you're selling and moving to France?
It's not the house, it's the studio. Okay. It's my studio. It's in the back of my garden. Yes, It's part of selling it or renting it or creating an Airbnb. We don't know yet how it's going to go. I would love to share it with more people, so we'll see what happens. But in any case, yes, this is where we do a lot of the work because it's surrounded by a little grove of bamboo in very, very quiet street that's called Ferry or Old Ferry Road. My house it was built by ferry boatsmen in the 1830s, so it's very magical in that.
Wow. Yeah, just walking in there, you feel healed, right?
So, when you create magic, people respond because it takes them very quickly back into childhood experience where the wounding has happened. And where, as I said earlier, we don't really have control over our lives, but we try to create control in order to survive the interferences or the traumatic events in our lives. So I always love to find out what a person's survival story is. How did they get through? And a lot of people spend time in their fantasies. When I ask them, where was your favorite place that you went when you had to get away from the world? And if they were lucky enough, it always is nature. If they were lucky enough that they had nature around, they played in the creek, they played at the roots of the trees, which is what I did. We had a lot of animals. I spent a lot of time with animals and horses and so on in nature. So this connectivity with nature is so unconditionally present at all times. So when clients come to me and I work with them and say, how much time do you spend in nature? And I tell them nature is the cheapest therapist there is. Go into nature because the world is unconditionally present there. You don't have to filter anything out. Unfortunately, we're not doing so well with our connection to nature during these years. So we have to create a relationship with nature. And that means even talking to your plant in your house. You'll be surprised how much energy there is that you can glean from that to help you to stay healthy and balanced.
Wow. This next photo it looks like an outline of a body that a woman is filling in with.
So in my groups and workshops, we've often done body mapping because most of us who live 24/7 in our bodies don't really know what the function is. And I'm not talking so much anatomically correctness, but rather what are you feeling, experiencing when your lung is taking up your whole space and the last parts of your lung tips are up here. How big are those bellows? And then if you breathe with the consciousness of that whole support system. And that arterial system looks kind of like the roots of trees. So if we're in nature, we can also dialogue with we call it tree whispering maybe, dialogue with the trees and how deep these roots are. And here's a quick way in for all of you. If you think of your fourth metatarsal, that's from the little toe, you go 2 toes in, under the ball of the foot on the outside there. And you think a deep root going deep, 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 deep down into the ground. Your whole weight will stand over that point. It's an incredible balancing point. So you can even do while you're lying in bed or sitting or at your desk or something. Think of these roots going down and it helps you to connect very quickly and you become deeply rooted in who you are.
Oh, I love that. That's great. We have another photo.
Oh, I wanted to say in that picture there are blocks. So I created something called blocks therapy. So stuck is not a place, the blocks can be moved.
Nice. Okay. Nice. And this one is some people doing some artwork at a table.
Yes, that's this particular one is called Notan. It's a perfect balance between dark and light. So we create a background and foreground between white and black, and that's present and past and future. So we play with these components of art to illustrate a gut feel, to create a sort of a gut response of how does that work? How is my future reflecting my past? And how is my past still movable and changeable as I'm looking at it from this vantage point today?
That's so fascinating. You're tying in artwork with body work and psychotherapy. It's just,
yes,
you know, it's amazing.
So we might start with the Notan. We might start with 5 different circles. Each one is different, smaller or bigger than the other, and we place it on the page. So some people place them on the page as if they were floating. And so that gives you a nice metaphor for your life at that moment. I'm not really feeling very grounded. Where is the connection? Where's the space between one dot to the next dot? And what's the dynamic relationship between these two? So that takes you into creative relationships. Who do I feel is a big dot in my life, and how small I am compared to that? Things like that.
So is your book still available that people can pick up?
Oh yeah, it's on Amazon. Stuck is not a place.
Okay,
yeah.
Stuck is not a place. And then tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing in France.
In France. Okay, so my sister lives on a property with 4 houses that were built in Norway, and they got a prize for their building. And so she imported these 4 houses on the property. They're all different sizes. And one has just become available. And she said, do you want to come and join me? I'm thinking about making everything solar and wind energy and self-supportive. And I had tried and tried to do this here in the United States with different people, and it somehow never came together. And I think now I know the reason for it, because I was meant to retire with my sister. We grew up together, and we've always had a really good relationship. So that's very exciting to me. And this little house now became available, and the house that I have here is getting a little bit too big for a woman at 78. I have to start to think about how can I work a little less. But I don't think that's going to happen, because I'm not that kind of personality, but I just need a new challenge, I think. So I love that area. It's in Alsace, France, so it's a 3-corner country. France, Germany, and Switzerland are within an hour from each other. So unless they close the borders, we can hop back and forth between these cultures very quickly.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
Yeah. And I have Zoom classes on Friday mornings that will continue for anyone who wants to join us. It's from 10:30 to 12:30 every Friday morning Eastern Standard Time. It's not much money at all. Everybody can afford it. It's a sliding fee scale.
Oh, that's so nice.
And we think about interesting subject matters and how we can support each other, how we can map our lives, how do we create a world map as well as a personal map. So how do we have an influence between people that we love and that we have challenging relationships in? And as we clean that up within ourselves, it radiates into the darkest places on the planet. There is no doubt about that. And that's how we can, have control, quote unquote, over the lives that are right now endangered of being extinct, like animals of all sorts and plants of all sorts, So my sense is that in the future, this is my prediction, the future will be based on energy politics, not on money politics. So therefore, it's very important to create an energetic body, a body that functions well, a mind that is much larger than what we've been using. They say Einstein used about 20% of his brain. Well, if we use 9% or 4%, we have a lot to go yet. And it's not going to come through intellectual reasoning. It's going to come through intelligence of the sensory and the emotional in the soul place rather than what we've been used to for centuries.
Yeah, I
So
think
this is an amazing
just,
opportunity right now.
it's such a comforting feeling to know that your body holds these memories. It has lots of wisdom. If you give it the space to look inside and to, do the work that you're doing with the people, there's a lot of hope. I think if you're just always cognitively thinking and worrying, you can run out of steam and sort of feel very hopeless, and especially during these times. So it's great that you're offering the Zoom classes. How can people reach you to join up in the Zoom group or get more information?
You can just go onto my website, UNERGI, Unity and Energy, Unity. And there's under workshops, you can check it out. There is the class listed. And I'll send you Zoom, send me an email, I send you the Zoom link and you're part of us.
That's so wonderful you're offering that. And I understand that when you travel to France, you're going to be creating sort of an eco village or, like a community type living situation.
Yeah, it's a self-sustainable little village, and people will be able to visit and maybe intern and help us build a cob house, or I don't know what we're going to get into. My sister's even more amazingly creative than I am.
Well, thank you, Ute. It's been a wonderful show. I'm so impressed with your work, the artwork and being in nature and working on the body. It's all just so powerful in these times for support for people. And we hope to have you back on once you're settled in France, since we can do some Zoom interviews and see how the Eco Village is coming along.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with your audience.
Oh, thank you. And join us for our next episode of Macro Magic.